So you may not know this, but lithium really isn't ready for prime time on boats because they don't really have the systems worked out so it's affordable for our scale of probably implementation. So what we need to do is fill in the blanks with certain things. First of all, floating is bad. Floating is a concept for lead acid, and you'll just overcharge your batteries. And on boats, that's pretty dangerous because it could burn down your boat. And the other thing, it just burns up your wallet, because you probably paid. You think it's worth it to pay maybe 3 times or 4 times what you did for lead acids because you think it's going to be all great. Well, if you overcharge your batteries, it's going to blow them up and it's going to be bad. So the way that I've chosen to deal with this problem is to turn off my charger. You have to turn off your charger. You let it float, it's just going to accumulate voltage, and I've done experiments, and I'm using a Sterling battery-to-battery charger. I don't think others are that much different. So you're going to need to come up with a module to turn off your charger, and your charger has to have input to turn it off. And it also ideally will have battery sense, a separate battery sense voltage. I'm a do-it-yourself guy, and I didn't know anything about this, but there's an article that I've linked you to on Marine How To that will that's my basis for this opinion that I have, which I think is a very good, sound opinion and sound advice I've gotten from Marine How To, and there's another linked article on his site. So I'll show you now next my my charger controller. So now we'll take a quick look at we've got the Sterling charger that has voltage sense from our Lifepo batteries. It inputs voltage sense, and then we have this input BMS2 where the charge controller is going to actually bring this high, a plus 12, to shut this off. Okay, I've done other videos where you can buy these modules usually for under $10 where you can set goal voltages and it can accomplish this. Usually some of these have integrated relays like this, some of them don't, and I've also got a link on one of my videos to this very accurate voltage meter where you can monitor your pack voltage, which I absolutely recommend you have this running at all times on your boat so you can just look up and see where your pack voltages are. And then of course this is in a marine environment, so we're going to need to use this stuff here, which is clear fingernail acrylic, and then we use that and we paint these boards before we install them.
In order to limit the charge voltage on the battery-to-battery charger using the Sterling Batt 2, I needed to program this module to set different goal voltages based on my situation. So, for instance, program A would be when I was going to try to achieve maximum state of charge and shutting off at around 13.8 volts on lithium ion batteries. And B program would be used when I'm at the dock and just want to maintain maybe a 40% state of charge, so to maximize the life of my batteries. Luckily, the Sterling provides BMS2 input. If you give it a trip voltage, it will stop charging. It will turn the charger off, which I've been unable to achieve otherwise. Just roughly what I'm doing then is I'm going to do a switch input where I'm going to choose either A or B BMS2 outputs and output these A or B to the BMS2 input to the charger, and then I'm going to input sense voltage here. So this is what the module looks like. So I have this switch right here can be in off position, and that is not going to stop any charging from happening. It just shuts the BMS2 output off. Then I have this position here, which is where I'm going to try to achieve maximum charge state. And you can see this LED right here is indicates whether it's trying to stop the BMS. So right now I've got 13.54 volts, and it's recommending that I just stay charging. Now what I'm going to do, I have a variable power supply here. I'm going to go ahead and take that voltage up that you'll be able to see on this meter. And when I get to somewhere around 13.8, it should kick. See there, it kicked. Okay. Now I'm going to go down. I'm going to take it down. It's got some different set points in there. Okay, so it went off. So this LED went off, so that means it's charging. Now I'm going to switch to the home setting, which this is to achieve a 40% state of charge, and that you can see it's stopping charging. So I've got to take it way down. So there I went down to 12.6. That's way low, right? So it's happy to charge at, see, around 13.3 it kicks off. Okay, so let's take a look at this board. So the board is basically down here, and I put a mezzanine board on it. It's just a breadboard style board that I've put over it, and I've used these ferrules. They kind of look like this here. I put ferrules into these connections here. So I basically just stuffed all this into the box, and it's not easy, and it's a lot of trouble to get all this stuffed into the box. And I've just kind of put a voltmeter here. You can kind of see the voltmeter I have hooked up. And then I also have an alarm here, and that alarm is to take input from the Smart Battery Protect. So what happens is I have a connector that runs out here, and I'm running multi-conductor cable, and then I'm terminating on ring terminal here with heat shrink tubing, and I'm going to terminate on this block here. And the idea is maybe someday, soon or later, I'm going to actually have some controller features on the Arduino, but for now I'm just going to use this module here. Thank you for watching.
So what we're using is this multi-conductor cable here to go between the charger and the place where the charge controller is. You may also have a battery protect, protecting your DC loads, and you may also have an external charger control, because generally speaking the charger is not going to be in the same place that you're going to want to operate and look at the battery, in the cabin. So we're using multi-conductor cable to simplify the wiring. So the multi-conductor cabling is we can break it down and sort of standardize signals, and this is an example of what I used for voltage sense and BMS input and such. So it's best to use, I think, the screw terminal blocks to terminate this wire on. And of course, it's best to use this marine grade wire, the 8-conductor wire, along with marine grade shrink terminals, heat shrink terminals, so you can seal off your wire properly. Then we can kind of look in general what this charge controller is doing. We're going to be taking in, in my situation, we're going to be able to, we're taking in power from the sealed lead acid 24-hour battery bank, and then we are running the voltage sense from the Lifepo battery right here. So voltage sense comes from, and all the sense comes from the Lifepo battery, and it also the charger uses this voltage sense. Now it gets the DC voltage from the fixed lead acid batteries in your alternator, but it's reading the sense from your Lifepo battery. So that's in general how it's going to work. Now it's got output here on this charge module. It's got output over to the battery charger, and that's what's going to stop the battery charger when it gets to, you're going to program this float voltage in here, which I have other videos on these modules, and that's where you're going to program your stop voltage. Something else that we need to consider is you're going to have alarms from possibly your battery protect, possibly from your BMS, possibly maybe there's some sort of alarm state from your charge controller, and you're going to need to configure your alarms in this area here, and chances are that your multi-conductor cable is going to carry some alarms. So it's just a real easy way. This is 20 gauge. You can put limited amount of power on it, and I just want to mention one other thing, that the voltage sense, there don't have any loads on this wire. Come very right off the battery terminal. You can protect it with 1 amp, but don't put any loads on it. Use it only to sense the voltage. Wow, stopping charging is kind of a big pain, isn't it? You could use your BMS probably and have a really low set point to do that, but it's not the recommended way. See you on the next video.